Hi everyone! Welcome to Sipped Up Recipes. Today we're making Rou Jia Mo. It is also known as Chinese Hamburgers. These are originally from Shaanxi province. It is one of my favorite Chinese street food. Well, now that I live in Ecuador, it is impossible for me to get Chinese street food like this. That is why I make it at home. It's super delicious. I can't wait to show you how to make it. First, let's make the filling, which we call it 腊汁肉. It takes a long time to cook until tender. The best cut for this recipe is the pork shoulder, but I couldn't find it today, so I have a piece of pork belly. This is a very lean pork belly, but it's still quite fat for this recipe. So I also have some pork loin here to balance it. I am just removing the skin and cut the pork into few pieces, like this. We are going to blanch the meat first. Put it in a pot with cold water. Bring this to a boil, then take the meat out and throw out the water. Blanching is a traditional way to get rid of some bad smells, impurities. Set the pork aside. We will use that later. In a clean pot, add 1 teaspoon of vegetable oil and 2 teaspoons of sugar. Start with the low heat and we will stir this until it turns into a caramel color. Be very careful here. You want to use a white or silver color pot so you can clearly see the color of the sugar. You don't want to burn it, that is why we're using the low heat. You want this to be red. The difference between red and burned is so little, so keep an eye on it. As soon as the color turns into red, remove it from the stove and let it cool down. Once it cools down, the sugar should have a sticky consistency, like this. Add some warm water in it. The reason you want it cool down is because if you add the water right away, it will splash everywhere. So be careful. Stir the caramel until it is dissolved. Look at this color. So beautiful, isn't it? That is what we are looking for. Put the pork in, then we will add some spices. I used 1 piece of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of fennel seed, half teaspoon of cloves, 1 teaspoon of black peppercorn, 1 teaspoon of Sichuan peppercorn, 2 teaspoons of Gan Cao. This is a typical Chinese traditional medicine. It tastes slightly sweet. If you don't have it, you can skip it or use a small stalk of sugarcane. 3 pieces of star anise, 3 pieces of orange peel. The one I'm using is dry. You can use fresh ones, no problem. 3 cloves of garlic, few slices of ginger, 2 tablespoons of Chinese cooking wine, 2 teaspoons of dark soy sauce, some white part of spring onion. Add more water to cover the pot. Bring this to a boil. Now it is the time to add salt. Mix it a little bit. Give it a taste to see if you need more salt. Mine doesn't, so I will just cover it and let it simmer for at least 3 hours. One thing you need to know is if the water evaporates too much, then it will taste a bit salty. You can add more water if needed. Okay, while that is cooking, we can make the white bread bun, which we call it 白吉馍. In the standard mixing bowl, add 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of baked baking soda. I just put the baking soda in the spoon and heat it up directly on the flame. Then you can use it. Mix 2 teaspoons of dry yeast with half cups plus 1 tablespoon of warm water. Slowly pour the yeast water into the mixing bowl. Use the paddle to mix it on low speed for a minute or two. Then scrape the dough off and switch it with the hook attachment. Knead the dough on low speed for 5 to 8 minutes or until you get something like this. Take it out and knead it until smooth. Let this proof for 20 minutes at room temperature. Do not let it proof too long. You don't want the bread bun to be too soft. Roll the dough into a long strip. Divide the dough into 6 pieces. Just letting you know, the recipe for the filling is enough to make 12 hamburgers, but the recipe for the bread is enough to make 6. So you might want to double the amount for the bread. Anyway, take one piece of the dough, roll it into strips. Then flatten it by a rolling pin. Roll it up from one side. Grab the end of it and pull it on the top. Let it stand up. Flatten it by your hand. Roll this into a thick, round piece. A lot of recipes say that you want to make it into a sort of cup shape like this, but I think it doesn't do that much difference to your more bread. So just feel free to roll it flat. The size is about 11 to 12 centimeters across. Put this in a frying pan. Use low heat to toast it, or else you will kill the yeast immediately. Make sure you leave some space between each more bread, because it will still get a little bigger as it's heating up. And you don't want them to stick together. When you heat the first side, you can cover the lid so it will cook the inside faster. 4 or 5 minutes later, give it a little peek. If you see it has that slightly yellow color, you can flip it over and cook the other side. When you cook the other side, you don't want to cover the lid because it will ruin the crispiness. When both sides are yellow like that, you can take them out. Do a little test with a fork. It should be slightly crusted on the outside. Now let's check the meat. It should be super tender that you can break it with just chopsticks. Take it out, put it on a cutting board. I have some of that delicious brine that we cook the meat with. Just put it on the side. Start chopping the meat. In the same time, keep adding the brine until you cannot add anymore. This is the secret that your hamburger will be extremely juicy. Take one piece of that more bread, cut it open. Stop the knife when you reach half of it. Use the tip of the knife and cut the inside open to create a pocket, just like this. Stuff the meat into the bread. Well, I like to do it a lot. I'm a meat eater. Make sure you add another spoon of that flavorful brine so the bread can soak it up and become very tasty. This is the authentic way to eat Rou Jia Mo, just the meat and the more bread, nothing else. But I like to be creative. So I will chop some scallion and cilantro, mix it to the meat. Then add a teaspoon of chili sauce. You can put anything you like on top of it. You're your own boss of your hamburgers. Seriously, these are amazing. The bread is not super soft, but it is full of flavors. And the meat is so tender. When you eat Rou Jia Mo in Xi'an, Xi'an is a city where it originally from. They always serve you with orange soda. These two are classic set, just like you want to drink Coke when you order McDonald's, right? So, 肉夹馍 and orange soda. Oh. Oh, so good. So, I hope you give this a try soon. If you did, leave me a comment and let me know how it went. As always, you can check the description for the written down recipe and please give me a thumbs up. If you like Chinese food, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any episode. If you want to know more about me or support me, check out my Patreon link. It's right there. And I'll see you next time. Bye!